Well, I'd like to welcome you to the Old Eastern Marsh Trail, which is Salisbury's rail trail. This rail trail was built on the Old Eastern Railroad, which came through from Newburyport over the river to Salisbury in 1840. The line went all the way to Portsmouth and then beyond into Maine. And it was a major railroad for well over 100 years. The development of the railroads was really remarkable in Massachusetts. In 1833, there was only one horse-drawn railroad in the state. By 1850, there was over 1,000 miles of railroads all over the state. So the development was amazingly rapid. Today, if we tried to build a railroad, you wouldn't even have your permits in the 3 years that it took them to build this railroad. The railroad was abandoned in the 1970s and sat, used mostly by people on ATVs or nature lovers, but just getting overgrown for many years. In 2006, the town got a 99-year lease from the MBTA, which had acquired it in the meantime. And in 2010, using federal highway money, about $1.3 million, we were able to build this really wonderful trail. This section of the trail goes 1.3 miles from the river to the first road, which is Mudnock Road. We also have plans next year, 2012, we're going to be building a link that will go under the Gillis Bridge on Route 1 and will allow people to come and go from Newburyport, from Rings Island, from the rest of the Salisbury that lies east of Route 1 and go under the bridge instead of over the highway to get here. So it'll be much safer. That'll be a total cost of something around $900,000, and that also is being provided by federal highway money. So we've been very lucky to get this support to build these trails. Well, now we're at the Merrimack River where the railroad used to cross. You can see that it would be very easy to cross the river except for the broken drawbridge. That turntable bridge functioned for many, many years, but it's been out of commission since the 1970s. We've thought about the possibility of trying to have the trail cross the river, but the problem is that if you're going to have a rail trail, a walking and biking trail, people cross it all the time. And a drawbridge of that type is only designed to open a few times a day. And when it does close, it completely shuts the river off. No boats can go. So there's a pretty fundamental conflict between using this bridge for railroads 8 or 10 times a day versus all the time. So if we ever were to try to go across the river, we would actually have to build a ramp that would go up as high as the highway bridge and have another drawbridge on top of that. So it's a very expensive undertaking. So that for a later day. But this is a very interesting historical sign. This was all done by volunteers from the town. And it talks about how people crossed the river from time immemorial. And the first bridge at this location was built in 1827. And contrast it to today, when all of our public works are done by the government. This was a privately financed bridge and a toll bridge. And it was built, as I said, in 1827. When the railroad came through, they came up with a very interesting, simple way to cross the river. They built an upper deck on the existing bridge and made the existing bridge a covered bridge, and the railroads ran on top of it. So we have an old picture from 1840 showing a little tiny railroad train on top of the road bridge. I just can imagine what that was like to be going in your carriage or walking and having a train rumbling overhead. The trains got bigger quickly, too big for that bridge, and by 1865 the railroad built its own bridge across the river. And so this part of the railroad was built in 1865. There have been a lot of interesting things that happened here. In 1875, there was a huge ice jam on the river that wiped out the road bridge, half of it on the Salisbury side. But they were able to rebuild it in a year. and get it back in operation. The 1875 bridge was then replaced in 1903, and then the new bridge was built, I think, in the 1950s. See if I have the date. 76, the Gillis Bridge was built. So this is a good location to get the sense of how people have traveled here for the last several hundred years.
Hi, I'm Mary Kadaya from Elm Street, and this is the Eastern Marsh Trail that we're at the end of, near the boating area and the river and the bridge that they put up every half hour so the boats can go through, so you can enjoy seeing the boats coming through and going upriver or downriver. This is an area where they also use for having their coffee in the morning at 7 o'clock sometimes, and we've seen some of the guys that come and they do their fitness here. It's just a great area to enjoy. I hope you all get to come and use it someday.
Our Salisbury Marsh Trail is part of the East Coast Greenway. East Coast Greenway is a concept to develop a trail all the way from Key West in Florida to Calais, Maine. And as parts of trails get built, they designate different segments. But it's going to go all the way down the East Coast, and they designated our trail as part of it. Of course, we're the most eastern railroad you could possibly have. And the East Coast Greenway Alliance, which is behind all this, asked if we would mind if they erected a nice kiosk for us. So we were very happy to have them do that, and they give information about the East Coast Greenway, and then we have a space on the other side to tell about our trails. You can see how really nice the trail looks. We have been so lucky that we have people who have just, volunteers, who have just come out of the woodwork to help take care of the trail. Our retired fire chief mows the trail all by himself. We had several people, about 4 or 5 people, lined up to mow every couple of weeks, and take turns. But he just wants to do it himself, and he's mowed it since the trail was opened, and he continues to do it, and he keeps it in just beautiful condition.
I'm Larry Kadaya, and this spot is hilarious because this is where all the dogs wind up running around. I just got to tell you, the other night there's a woman with these 2 wire-haired terriers, and she lets them off leash, and they're pretty good, but they like to chase the critters and the squirrels and the chipmunks. And one of them's named Stuart, and Stuart got naughty, and he got in one of the underneath his holes where all the rocks are, and Stuart got in there so far he couldn't hear her calling, and we're all out here in the dark yelling, "Stewie, where are you?" And after 2 hours they finally found him.
Another man bought an expensive backpack leaf blower, and so he has taken on the job of blowing the leaves, and he keeps the leaves clear. And then of course there's lots of other people who pick up things. There's a lady who trims the flowers. We've also, I'll take you up here to show you in a minute, we came up with a nice idea for a bag dispenser. One of the volunteers made a little tube, and we put a sign on it. And so people who have extra plastic bags, and don't we all have a lot of extra plastic bags, put their bags in, and anyone who needs one takes them out the bottom. And this is completely self-fulfilling. Everyone puts them in. In fact, when I take some over here to try to put some in, usually it's full because other people are doing it. But as a result, we don't have any cost, and we don't have any issues of having people not have a bag in their hands. You'll notice that we have really beautiful old granite lining the ramp that comes up to the trail. We were very lucky. The design of the trail called for the retaining walls to be made of little interlocking concrete blocks. They're fine, but the same contractor who was building our trail was also building the one in Newburyport. And in Newburyport, in order to go under the bridge, they needed to remove the railroad abutment. And part of his contract was that he was obligated to remove and dispose of all of the granite that was in the railroad abutment. And so he asked us if we would mind if he replaced the little concrete blocks with beautiful granite blocks. And so he carted them across the river and built a very nice walkway for us. and you know, much better than we ever imagined it would be. So that was a nice piece of luck, and he made a little extra money too. This is something we call wayfinding signs. We had a lot of people come to visit the trail, and of course they don't know where they are, and they don't really necessarily know where they're going. And neighbors up at the other end of the trail kept talking to you to say, you know, people are getting lost, they have to ask us questions all the time, can't you put some signs up? So we just have done it. We have a nice map that shows all of the trails in Salisbury, including the Marsh Trail and the Ghost Trail, and how to get between them, and also showing the trail in Newburyport. And then we have a series of signs that show how far you've got to go to different landmarks on the trails. And you know, we're hoping that that's helping people find their way.
And we saw, like, I don't know, 10 turtles?
Yeah, like,
no, there were like 7. There was like 4 in the back, and then there's like,
no, there was like
one
5.
big turtle. There was like one big turtle.
Then like another one.
Yeah.
This is a railroad artifact over here, this old granite post. This is mile 39 from Boston, and it used to have a black painted top and white numerals on it. Every time I pass it, I think I've got to find somebody who will restore it, but then I forget. So this whole area over here to the west was all recently given to the town, all the way out to the river, including all this upland here and there. And so we're going to be, we've got grant applications in to put in a nature walk there. Yeah, this is really neat. You go out to the edge of the marsh. I mean, it's very wild.
Is it open yet as a trail? Or?
Yeah, people can go anywhere they want. Oh, this is a very turtle-filled pond here. You see any? Oh, I see one there.
Oh, yeah,
Nope, he went down. Anyway, you can see 30, 40 turtles at a time here. And earlier in the spring when they need the warmth. And this is full of painted turtles, little ones, as well as snapping turtles. And as we go along, I hope maybe we'll see some laying their eggs. A lot have already been laid, but well, there's was probably a turtle egg hole that's been dug out by a raccoon. But because this is kind of sandy, the turtles like to lay their eggs here, and so we often see them.
The 2 women were...
What do you have here? Oh, here's a nest that was dug out by raccoons. Oh. You can see the eggs. Oh, they've eat the eggs.
Oh, raccoons have to eat too, you know?
Yeah, it's part of life. You can see that was just done. There's still yolk in that egg. You know? Oh, there may be a turtle here. They look like they're looking. What do you see?
Snapping turtle.
Oh yeah? Oh, here's one. Oh good, I'm glad. Yeah, we did see one. We are seeing one.
Yeah.
There, that's laying eggs right there.
Something for your roommate, Joe.
Oh my goodness.
That's a small one. That's a baby. Isn't that something? Our trail group put in some money, and we bought a wildflower seed mix because to distribute along the trail, and it was interesting. It was a mix that had a dozen perennials and a dozen annuals, this area, the whole trail had been just graded, so it was a great time to throw seeds down. This area is mostly you know, lupin. I'm surprised that it's doing so well. Oxeye daisy, I mean, they're everywhere, but they really are vigorous. And this is coreopsis. We have a coreopsis garden, or coreopsis growing wild around our house that originally came from the right-of-way along 95. They planted flowers there 20 years ago, and we pulled off the highway and grabbed a bunch of seeds, and then the state police made us move on. But since then we've been propagating these coreopsis because they're really vigorous.
I'm David Holscher. This is my wife Deborah Lynn, Aaron, Jason, and Scott. Yeah, we come out
every fall, summer, and spring.
Yeah, we're out here in the fall, the summer, the spring. They come out weeknights after we get homework done. The kids come out and they burn off energy. Between the three of them, there's a lot of that, and they come out here and they can ride out ahead and be free and enjoy their the sunshine and the fresh air, and it's a great time, right? Yeah.
We've done a few interpretive signs here. This is just, these are typical, you know, birds that you would see here regularly. There's a, you know, red-winged blackbird. This is if I hear them sing, that's it right there. This is a marsh wren. They have a kind of a gurgly little song. You don't see them very much, but you hear them.
Right.
They're just, the place is full of them.
Yeah, Linda said it was wrong. That's because we have house wrens right now at our house.
It's a different song.
It's a different song, but it's a small bird.
Kind of
Tiny little bird.
Small-looking bird.
Very, very reclusive.
Right.
We'll go up here. There's a
My name's Brianna.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Tim.
I'm Kaylee. I'm Haley. I'm Michaela.
We love taking the kids out here. We actually bike all the way down to Mudknock Road where our youngest daughter goes to daycare, and we'll bike down there with a bike seat, pick her up and bike home. So the ladies that work there love to see us coming in on our bikes with our other kids on their bikes and throwing Margaret on the back to ride home. It makes them very happy.
We come out here pretty often. We walk, we usually just walk or ride our bikes. Yeah.
And I think it's like nice, like, cause it's really pretty and there's not so much cars coming by. We saw 2 turtles. One was humongous and one was small.
Well, we're now at Town Creek, which is, I think, the most interesting and also kind of most complicated part of our rail trail. One thing interesting from the point of view of history is that this is the place where the first settlers in Salisbury came across the Merrimack River and up Town Creek, and then they settled up around the town green, and this was the way they got there. And that was in 1639. When the railroad came through, there were a whole series of creeks throughout this marsh, the biggest one being Town Creek. And they built trestles across the creeks and didn't disturb the flow. And that was, as I said before, in 1840. But by 1880, some people who owned land upstream of the railroad felt like they could control the flooding of the tides if they closed in the trestles and established a tide gate here at this location. So they got permission from the state to fill in the other trestles, and I think there were 3 of them. And in this area they filled it all in, but they left one about 5 foot by 5 foot culvert with a wooden gate that would, the gate would close and limit the tide from going in, but it would open when the tide or when rainfall was coming out, because the rain would run down this way. And that culvert remained in place, you know, from, as I said, from 1880 until now. The culvert is still there. And next year, if everything goes right, this section of the railbed at Town Creek is going to be removed, and we're going to put in 2 modern, bigger tide gates that will not only be able to keep the water from coming in — this one leaks a lot and causes flooding already — but also permit a lot of water to come out if it needs to be done. And furthermore, the repair that was done in 2007 is really just temporary. It'll make this a more permanent thing. So what you see here is a rail trail, which is a lot of fun to be on, but it also is actually protecting lots of homes and businesses along Route 1.
Hi, my name's Bonnie Welcome. I live on Ferry Lots Lane not far off the bike path. And I just want to say that I really enjoy it down here. Since the rail trail has been developed, it's given me a place to walk where it's safe. I'm not walking on the streets. I enjoy it with my dog. And I see a lot of people come down here with their families that are rollerblading, walking, skateboarding, just, you know, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. It just has so much to offer, and I just really enjoy it down here. I'm down here just about every day except for the days that I work.
And there's a Baltimore Oriole right there for you.
Oh, yes. First Baltimore Oriole this year.
Up in the tree, right there. Yeah, see if you can find the nest. You know, they have a really pretty nest. If you
Leave this tree.
you can you? I bet it's in this tree somewhere. Yeah.
Listen to it come. Boy, it's beautiful.
Hey Don, fancy meeting you here.
Yes, how are you doing, Jerry?
I see you here sometimes, but I see you got a little bit of trash in your basket there.
Yeah.
Where'd you find that?
Well, along the roads, we don't find usually beer cans on the trail. I usually pick up paper or doo-doo bags, and that's not too often. It's very, very clean generally.
Yeah, you know, it's wonderful how people are taking care of the trail. I think if it's not you, somebody else is picking things up. Things don't last very long.
No, no. It's a wonderful place to go. You're close to nature, and I think a lot of the children today are they're missing out on nature. I'd like to say they're inside people, whereas when I was raised, I was an outside person, and I was out in nature all the time.
Another interpretive sign that we've done that focuses on Salisbury's early settlement. This is a road that is called Mudnock Road that of course is from here to here, that's still there. And when the settlers first came, they rode across the river because they were coming from Newbury. Newbury was settled in 1635. This was settled, chartered in 1638 in the town of Salisbury, actually as the town of Colchester. They didn't like the name and they changed it to Salisbury in 1639, most of them being from Salisbury Plain in England. Rode over here on Town Creek, that's why that's called Town Creek, that you just saw, in 1639. And at that time the creek went here, and the landing is actually on the east side of this trail. There are two really notable people in Salisbury's early history. One is Major Robert Pike, and he was a son of a settler from Newbury and came over here, or at the very beginning, and he was an Indian fighter. And you know, leader of the militia trying to defend the Indians. One of the reasons for settling this coast and going up as far north as they could was to, from the English point of view, was to, you know, keep the French and the Indians at bay and get control of as much of the coast as they could. And he continued to be a representative of the town in the general court and ride on horseback to Boston well into his 80s. He was a very, very strong character. Simon Bradstreet was one of the founders, and he basically was hopscotching all around the area north of Boston with his wife Anne. First in Ipswich, and he was the founder of Salisbury. Eventually they wound up in or Groton. One or the other. And anyway, Anne was of course a famous poet, and we quoted one line here that really really states what their relationship was. It was remarkable. You know, if ever two were one, then surely we. If ever man were loved by wife, then thee. This is the current northern end of what we call the Old Eastern Marsh Trail, and from here. It doesn't show on this map, but as you saw in the earlier map, we're designing a trail that's going to go from here either under or over Route 110, which is Elm Street in Salisbury, past Lyons Park, which is our main park, on a bridge across Route 1 north, past our elementary school, and all the way to the New Hampshire border. In 2016, 17, you'll be able to start, well, basically you'll be able to start at Newburyport, cross the bridge, come through here, and go all the way to New Hampshire. Meantime, Seabrook is working on getting control of the right-of-way in Seabrook from New Hampshire Department of Transportation. The state owns it there. And they will be building a trail. And people will actually be able to go right to the back door of places like Home Depot, supermarkets, etc. I looked forward to going shopping on my bike someday.
And it's really great to be able to go somewhere to bike around and not have to worry about traffic and cars. It's so relaxing to come out here and the kids get a little ahead or a little behind and everybody's safe. It's a really enjoyable place to go. I know a lot of families who use this trail and who love it.